We fight for immigration reform because millions of families are separated, because we see young people who can't reach their full potential, because we feel that there's talent, there's skill, there is a great conviction to succeed, and that we are wasting a lot of lives, and certainly in moving these kind of policies, wasting a lot of money. So we've engaged in this fight. I've been working at Chirla now for 13 years. Many people before me have been in this fight. And we've been able to move the national discourse so that immigration reform is a main point of discussion in this country. And it is an important issue, but it's no more important than education, than healthcare, than many of the other issues. But through much organizing and much work, have been able to move it forward as a priority in the national debate. But we haven't won yet. In fact, we've actually lost. We've had some devastating defeats. And so I'm here to share with you, well, what are some of the lessons that we have learned? And what do we need to understand collectively as we move forward? So what have we learned after moving this debate to be a priority? What have we learned after millions of people were out in the streets, where millions of people around this country feel that they were the initiators, the creators of an incredible movement of people? What have we learned with record numbers of people who have now are becoming citizens, 1.4 million people who have decided that they want to become citizens of the United States and have a voice and be respected? And what have we learned in this devastating defeat that we just suffered in 2000? Well, we learned the following. One, yes, we need to have a sophisticated legislative strategy. It's necessary. But we cannot support a legislative strategy absent a strategic communication strategy, absent the real organizing of people, absent building alliances, and absent countering race and racism in this debate. The legislative strategy. We learned that you can't move a policy proposal that divides your base. We moved a policy proposal that at the end of the day, we were trying to move to create momentum, to create that momentum. And what we realized that in that process, the proposals were getting so weak and so, and really just we're being torn apart, that the very base that was marching out in the streets, the very base of organizations, many of them weren't willing to support them. We learned not to do that. That if we're going to have a policy proposal, we need to be as united as possible. We learned in this last round that we can't ignore communications. And I want to share with you that Lou Dobbs, O'Reilly, Glenn Beck, some of your friends, are people that had 75% of their airtime dedicated to having an anti-immigrant message. When you review what the airtime in 2007 was, 75% of Lou Dobbs' time was spent railing against immigrants. Immigrants as a cause for every single ill in this country. We need to counter that. And we need to invest in a communication strategy that seeks to discredit and to really to show who these people are. And not just to ignore it and to think that everybody else is going to understand that they're crazy, but to understand that in fact they're creating a lot of the information that everyday people are consuming. We learned that in field capacity that we needed to invest in field capacity, and we needed to strengthen our field, and that this was one of the places where we needed to invest the most. That we needed to organize in places where we weren't as strong, and in those places where we were strong, we needed to be stronger. You saw in the video with the Micro Solutions workers, part of what happened with these workers was that the plan that ICE had was that all the people who were going to be detained were going to also be deported. That was their business, and that was their business as usual. And we said, no, that's not going to happen. Not here, not in Los Angeles. So out of the 138 people who were detained, 136 are still here with their families. After 3.5 months of fighting, those ankle bracelets that you saw on people's foot are now off. A donor came forward. Bob Hildreth came forward, gave us money, and said, if a worker can come up with half their bond, I'll put the other half to remove that ankle bracelet. But first they fought in court, and they fought in the streets to make sure that they understood that this was unacceptable. And we are probably still the only city that has done that. These same individuals are ready to fight. And that's what we mean by field organizing and field capacity. If there are millions of people who are in this situation, we cannot have 1,000 or thousands organized. We need to have millions organized. And the work is one person at a time, one situation at a time, but leadership has to emerge from this work. Otherwise, it's not a win. And we need to build alliances with you, with our progressive colleagues. Because in this last round, what we noticed was that progressives on this issue were not convinced, were confused, not connected, and that we realized that at the end of the day, we cannot win without you. We just can't win without you. And that when we were in the trenches fighting on the immigration reform, there were very few voices from the progressive community in support of immigration reform. And we didn't just say, well, it's because our progressive colleagues, they should just know that we're on board. We recognize that we need to do more work to connect us to our side. And that it's a bridge in which we walk to the middle and you walk to the middle, so that you understand how immigration reform helps us all. And that we carry water on all the rest of the issues as well.